With loneliness and anxiety on the rise, and well being and empathy on the decline, how can humanity find deeper connection and belonging? Our guest is devoted to solving this problem by helping humanity put empathy back into muscle memory, one aloha at a time. Get ready to feel uplifted today on the Startup Life Live Show. Let's glow. Woohoo! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share diverse founders' startup stories to help newly minted business owners find the solutions and inspiration they need. And I am sending a big hug of appreciation to you right now for carving out the time to tune in and hear another founder's startup stories and up your founder game. That's how we get better. As we get better, our businesses get better, and the more knowledge we can bring in will help our startups. Now, you may find and hear a solution, a resource, a shot in the arm that sends you back to doing even more and better with your business every time you tune into the Startup Life Live Show. If you would be so kind as to click on the like button wherever you are watching and whenever you are watching this video. We're live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And that love helps us reach more founders. So thank you for that. And if you're joining us on YouTube, I'd be so grateful if you were to subscribe to the channel. I'm getting up to almost 1,000 subscribers, and then the algorithms help a little more. So thank you for adding wind to my sail with your subscribe love. And how do you know whenever I post a new show and have another incredible founder on the show? Well, you join the Startup Life Live meetup group right here, bit.ly/Startup Life Live, or scan the QR code and join the group. This way you'll get an alert whenever I post a new episode. And there's going to be a founder in the tech industry, health, food. You never know. Someone's going to be able to help you up your game as a founder. And you want to grab their nuggets whenever possible. And did you know that you can listen to the Startup Life Live show? Yeah, it's on everywhere. You tune in to podcasts. Very easy breezy to listen in when you're folding laundry or driving somewhere or picking up the kids. It's so much fun. And hey, if you would like to have a greater impact on the startup ecosystem, please reach out to me about sponsoring the Startup Life Live show. Create a greater impact in the world. So thank you for that. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Amy Giddon. Let me pull up some artwork here while I read you her wonderful bio. She's the Chief Connection Officer and co-founder of the Daily Haloha app. A seasoned leader, Amy has developed and implemented innovative growth strategies for organizations large and small. She was troubled by pervasive division and disconnection, so she launched her startup, Daily Haloha, to increase empathy and address social well-being head-on. Her vision is a world of true belonging where everyone feels at home in their skin and at home in the world. How wonderful is that? Oh my gosh, let's bring Amy into the room with a big woohoo and aloha. Amy! Woo!
Hello, hello.
So happy that you're here joining us and sharing your beautiful vision of the world. I can't wait to find all the details. We need you. We need Daily Aloha so desperately right now. So I'm excited to hear how you are figuring out solving this very hairy problem. Where are you hailing from today? What part of the world are you in?
I'm a New Yorker. I live in New Rochelle, New York, which is in Westchester County. My work life has been very New York centric. So
Excellent. East Coast goddess. Woohoo!
Woo!
What are you feeling especially grateful for today? Before we dive into your wonderful work in the world, what's really making your heart sing with joy?
I'm a sucker for this season. I have to say, my heart feels full. My heart feels full. I'm going to have my whole blended family together this weekend.
Nice.
I live with my partner. We have 5 kids in our 20s between us. They have 3 significant others of their own. It's a chaotic, unruly, lovable bunch, and we're all going to be together. So it's exciting.
Oh, it's great. And blended is wonderful. And for those of you are enjoying this time of year, family of choice is also wonderful as well. And being able to share the love and the joy. That's so delicious. I want to remind folks who do tune in live with us right now, be sure to share your startup with us. It's a great way to amplify what you've got going on, because a lot of replay views happen on these videos. And your business name plus URL plus your one-liner, we pop it right up here on the screen and we can celebrate you. Little clap in action, especially to add some wind to your sails. And during our conversation today, if you have any questions at all for our guest, Amy, or for myself, or for the world at large, please pop them into the comment section and we will add that to the conversation, because we all learn together and with each other. All right, Amy, I got to dive in, because what you're doing is so remarkable. First of all, though, I always like to find out what compels a founder to leave what I call the guaranteed paycheck and benefits behind. What was it that you said to yourself, this is it, I'm going to go start a business? Was it, and I want to know about that. And I want to know if you had any role models growing up, or were you always compelled to push product and ideas with folks?
I'm as surprised as anybody to find myself as an entrepreneur. I had incredible role models, but not for entrepreneurship. My dad's an engineer, my mom's an artist, so kind of right brain, left brain.
What a great combo.
Yes, and I am confused in the middle, but have deep appreciation for both. And I would say that my parents modeled values, ethical behavior, compassion, and love in spades. But my father's a son of immigrants, and I think they prized stability above a lot, and family.
Oh, yeah.
So my father worked in a big corporation for his entire career, and my mom practiced her art. So I didn't have any role models in the startup, genre.
Right.
Incredible role models for being inquisitive, appreciating art and beauty and culture and logical reasoning and all the things that both my parents gave to me.
They gave you problem solving.
They did.
Which is a key ingredient for being a founder. So folks, take that in, what Amy just said. No, she did not have any background or role models, but because she's curious and likes to pull on threads and solve a problem. I know many of you have a track record of solving problems in your life that people can point to. So how did tell us a little bit about your professional background, because it's through the lived experiences that we have that prepare us to fulfill our dreams and, achieve the success or fulfillment that we're looking for or seeking.
Yeah, my business background started really traditionally. The first decade of my career, I worked for big global traditional companies in management consulting and in financial services. And it served me really well. I was also really fortunate. I worked for incredibly inspiring leaders. So I learned by watching leaders do their thing, what leadership is all about. And I got exposure to a lot of the functional areas across the companies. And boy, looking back now, is it nice to be resourced? I am missing that so much now.
I often turn to my plants and the cats and say, where are my people?
I had teams, I had a budget, all those things. But the next decade of my career, I did go to successively smaller companies. So still structured, traditional in many ways, but smaller, more nimble. I got to experience different functional areas outside of strategy and marketing, which is my bread and butter. I did migrate into product and government relations and PR and some other things. So I learned along the way. And I would say the other thing that was so important about my early career is that I developed a network. I developed a network of people that support me, saw me in action. We had a lot of mutual trust, mutual respect. And my business network is really my friends' network today. And so both the things I learned and the network I cultivated were really helped me a lot when I turned into entrepreneurship.
Oh, absolutely. Because you hear the stories like Squarespace and others who launched their business during college, some of them high school, right? And so they had never had to hire an employee. They didn't even know what an interview to bring them on board was like, let alone the exit interview and all those other systems and procedures and challenges. So I think there's a lot to be said when we can bring the larger corporate and the more nimble, smaller organizations experience to the plate as founders. And, we call ourselves seasoned for a reason, folks. That's
Here,
because we've
here.
made so many mistakes along the way that we got to learn from, or we got to watch other people make horrific mistakes and say, oh, I'm never going to be doing that for sure along the way. So now you have a background. I mean, your BS is in computer science. So let's talk a little bit about your idea for Daily Haloha, how it evolved, and how you took on launching the platform.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go back to why I'm even sitting here or how this whole thing started. It honestly was like a coconut hit me in the head. My startup is born of my personal heartache.
Okay.
And I've met so many founders, and I know I'm not alone. I think for many of us, we're trying to solve a problem that affects us either quite personally or profoundly. And I would say for me, it's more profound and a little personal too. But what happened was the heartbreak of disconnection and dislocation that reared its head after the presidential election, during and after the presidential election of 2016, where for the first time in my lifetime, I saw a level of divisiveness and polarization that actually led to dehumanization, right? Where we just couldn't hear each other anymore. And there was no tolerance for people that didn't look like us, act like us, or believe what we believed.
Well, and also we had very senior leadership using hate-filled rhetoric and pointing to people and saying, you are awful and you are wrong, and other very divisive words. And it became like the language. Everywhere you turned around, everybody was angry and hurtful and harsh in their communication. And it
So
was applauded.
And yeah, so true. And, without trying to be too partisan, I happen to be very liberal, but I also saw it amongst my liberal friends.
Yes. Oh, gosh, yes.
Right? Dismissing. It's a dismissive, attitude toward anyone who doesn't hold our same beliefs or lived experience. And the heartache, yes, it started in our political and social spheres, but I talked to a lot of people who have heartache around their family dinner tables. The divisiveness was pervasive through every level of society, down to our families and our most intimate relationships. So I was really feeling the heaviness and weight of that moment and hadn't really decided to take it on. I mean, how big a problem? And it's like, who am I to think that I could make a difference to pervasive division and dislocation? But I had this experience that was personally transformative. And I guess it was my coconut, which which is that I had an opportunity to participate in what became a really large participatory public art project. It was in the subway station in New York City, and it was based on Post-it notes. Somebody named Matthew Chavez started this project called Subway Therapy and invited people to reflect on this moment and contribute a Post-it note to this collective experience of hope and uplift and unity in the wake of this divisive and polarizing election. And it ended up being 50,000 individual notes of hope and love on this subway wall. And I felt so uplifted. And I looked around me and I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that there was something magical going on in this very simple invitation to participate to this collective experience.
And you know what was beautiful about that project was that he was asking people to tap into that side of them. And we know that redirection is so important, right? Anybody who's had kids, a toddler, you know, redirection is so important, but also where your focus goes, energy flows. So he was taking that redirection and saying, hey, let's focus on something that's uplifting, something that we all have in common. Because I know for me at the time, I kept going to our, you know, the history of our country and all the times people really did, you know, stand up for each other. When we had the huge hurricanes in 2017, 2018, you saw everybody, whether it was Houston or Puerto Rico, really helping each other. So how did this then prompt you to go, okay, I'm going to do it? Because, you know, that Marianne Williamson quote, right? Who are you not to do this, was where I went the minute you said this, because you're like, why should I? Why me?
I love that quote, right? We're afraid of the depth of our power and who are we not to? I totally mishmash that up, but I love that quote. So I was commuting in and out of this subway station. So I saw this day after day after day after day. I started like stalking the wall and like almost, you know, accosting other people. Hey, what do you think about this thing? So it set me on this very deep exploration in typical consulting fashion. What is it about participatory public art? And is this a one-off, or are there others? And if there are others, can I find a set of common characteristics that give them their secret sauce?
Right.
And I was defining the secret sauce as the ability to unite anonymous strangers in this moment of shared humanity and like, I see you. So I found them, you know, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. I found them everywhere. I started dissecting them. Is there some commonality, a common thread across these projects? And yes, there was. And when I found it, it became instantly obvious that those core attributes were the polar opposite of social media, which was our digital platforms that promised connection, but over time we've come to understand has actually been an accelerant in a lot of ways to polarization and division, if not, you know, personal separation and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh my gosh, here's something on city sidewalks that help us really feel our shared humanity. It happens to be the opposite of our digital spaces. There's room for something different here. And that's when I really said, I can do something here.
Well, and folks, take this in, because what Amy did was she allowed her analytical, data-driven mind, the engineer side of her personality, thank you, Dad, you know, and combined it with, you know, the art. But, you know, you pulled on the data, and the data gives us such comfort and confidence that our hypothesis has legs. Right, Amy? And so, you know, by finding those pieces out and you got hit with that realization, you went, okay, now I can see who am I to do this and launch this platform.
Yeah, I felt like there was something to be learned that we could all learn together from participatory art that was just achingly absent in our digital lives. And it also sent me on a third exploration. I am very data driven about what is it that I was actually feeling. This is actually where the head and the heart come together, right?
Yeah.
What was it that I was feeling? I knew why I needed something because I was feeling so brokenhearted, but I didn't really understand the mechanism behind this like feeling of uplift and joy that I felt in participating. And I realized that it was belonging. And not only was it belonging, but it was belonging fueled by empathy. these projects creating an environment, a container of belonging where we could show up as our authentic selves, which feels amazing, and listen and experience the thoughts and feelings of others without bias or assumptions or status. And that feels really good. I mean, we are hardwired to belong. So my third avenue of exploration was really in the social sciences. What is this thing belonging? What is this thing empathy? How do they work? How do we cultivate that? So it was really those three explorations that came together in my aha. Oh, now I get how I could actually productize this.
Right, right. And so, I know your undergrad is in computer science. I don't know how much you use that going forward, but a lot of times founders will launch a business that is a tech business and they don't have the tech acumen, knowledge. What is product dev? Do I have to spend thousands on this, or can I just whip something up for a beta test? Share with us your process, because again, this is a big, hairy, audacious idea. And you were thinking about, how can I make it easy for people to use? How did that process go for you?
Right. So you did bring up my computer science degree. And let me just say that when I got my degree in the Middle Ages, we were punching cards and sending them through a card reader. That experience has not helped me one bit. So it looks like I have technical chops, but I don't. I have a technical mind, but I don't have technical expertise. And the technical mind is helpful, but it really didn't get me all that far. So here's how it became a thing. I started imagining this thing, and I accidentally blurted it to a friend.
Oh, I love that. Accidentally blurted it.
I did. It felt so fragile.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to share it, even with my most intimate people. But I have a friend, we were on a board together of a nonprofit, our local continuing ed. We were working on a project. And for some reason, it was tangentially related to what we were talking about, but I blurted it to my friend Greg. His eyes lit up. And he's like, tell me more. I'm like, really? And every time we got together to work on this project, all we talked about is what was to become Daily Haloha. And I'm so grateful to him, because his enthusiasm really brought me where I am. And at some point, I got down on one knee and asked him to be my co-founder. And he said yes to the dress. No, he said yes. And away we went. And he has since peeled off again and had to pursue other things.
Sure.
But he was with me for years of the journey, where his presence made all the difference. And we are not an ideal co-founding team by any stretch. And we felt the pain of that.
Yeah.
There was a lot that bound us, and not enough between the two of us to check all the boxes, but we got there.
And can I just say one thing about that? Because folks, this is a great founder journey moment here. And that is, the two things, or maybe really three. The fact that you were able to share it with somebody who cheerleaded you and believed in you enough to come on the journey. And so you had the courage to ask him to be a co-founder, which that's a big step. And you had the courage to be aware, and the self-awareness to understand that, wow, the two of us, now that I've seen us in action, is not going to be the real power team to take this to the next level. Those are such important conversations to have with yourself and with your co-founder, and understand too that this is why you set these agreements up ahead of time, folks, so that when exits need to happen of employees or co-founders, you've got the right agreements in place to make that transition very clear and transparent and seamless.
I couldn't agree more. I just want to echo that, because I did get really good legal advice when we set up our partnership agreement. And it is exactly like doing a prenuptial. It's uncomfortable. You certainly, you're all starry-eyed. You don't want to anticipate or even talk about what might happen if the thing falls apart. So it's not the conversation that you want to be having, and it's not easy, but boy, is it important and helpful. So we had a lot. We had all those conversations up front. And then when it came time to go our separate ways, we were guided by documents, but also guided by our deep admiration and respect for one another.
Yep.
And our friendship matters more than anything else. We met cute. Our daughters were best friends, and our families are friends. And everything I'm trying to bring into the world I do with integrity.
Yes.
Because it's part of why we're us.
It's the vibe of your business. In the heart of your business is being in integrity. And thank you for bringing up, of course, one of our favorite holiday movies with we had a meet cute moment, The Holiday with.
Love that. Although Love Actually is my favorite, I have to say. That is.
What's your favorite?
Love Actually.
Oh. And I'm afraid, folks, my favorite holiday movie, that's right, Die Hard. What can I say?
All right, I can give you a little props for that.
All right, so he moved on, but he helped you. What did you get? What did you guys work on and get and figure out? Because when you do that initial launch, you get so much information about your hypothesis, and it gives us a chance to talk about value proposition. Because as you start asking the questions of your customers, they're going to give you what they want. And it may not be what you want to give, but it's a quandary that we get into as founders.
So we did so many things wrong and fell into some good luck as well. So
I have to applaud the wrongs. It's just, they're the best. Go ahead.
More eager to share those in case they're helpful to one other person. So Greg and I started putting together the scaffolding of our product, and he's a little more technical than I. He's kind of an early web guy, not a coder, but he sort of is where tech and humanity come together. He's really good at user experience. So we started designing this product. We found this guy who was in our network to develop a prototype for us, a working prototype. And it was an app. It was not like a paper prototype or a web-based. It was an app prototype. We love this guy. He seemed to love what we were doing. His name is Matt. Developed this beautiful functioning prototype that I could show people on my phone. So I started thrusting it in front of anybody who crossed paths with me. I think people started running the other way when they saw me coming, like, oh my God, she's going to show me this app again. But it felt so great. Like I felt like a kindergartner. Like I made this, coming home with the turkey with the fingers. I mean, the joy of creation, like putting something in the world that didn't exist yesterday, was such an incredible feeling. And I showed it to lots of people. Greg showed it to lots of people, but there was such confirmation bias going on. And of course, I was showing it to people that didn't want to hurt my feelings. It was everything but a really good experiment in gathering.
Yes.
It ignited.
That's why we have to talk to complete strangers who have no skin in the game.
Yes. And we did do that later, but not at this very important stage, actually, which is the prototype stage.
And I'm sure there are founders out there who have lots of experience in that as well. Everybody wants to just cheer you on. You're amazing. But it's not asking the tough questions nor giving the tough feedback.
Yes. So, and when they tried to gently, I think I didn't even hear it. They're like, oh, this is cute, or something. Oh, but it wasn't, oh, wow. Like, right, there's feedback and there's feedback. I think I wasn't listening deeply because I was looking for confirmation. So it was stars in my eyes. So
Amy, I just want to say that that's very typical. And thank you so much for sharing that. Founders tend to fall in love with their solution. That is just like, anything else. We just put up blinders to what we need to hear. And it's really hard to take those blinders down. So I am so grateful for your honesty on that.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for the experience because we did it better the next time. But we did get some feedback. So we did refine from there. But I'll tell you this is probably the most heartbreaking part of my journey, maybe. So things were looking good. And we were ready for the next stage of development with this freelancer who was working out really well for us. So our prototype was sort of what they call a front end. It was a usable thing on the phone, but it had no back end. There was no database. There was nothing attached to it that would make it an ongoing business or product. When it came time to develop the back end, Matt just ghosted us. He completely ghosted us. With our code, he disappeared along with our code.
Oh my gosh.
And what I've come to understand after telling this story to so many people is that he was a front end developer. And when it came time to doing the back end, he really didn't have the skills and he didn't have the maturity to tell us. He got in over his head. He got himself in a bind and he just disappeared. He was a young guy, a lovely young guy.
I know. This is so important. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have one of these moments. I just had an Andelicious moment for our listeners because, and I think this is one of the video snippets I'll be grabbing to share. So many people have this experience. Founders, you've either had it happen to you or had a story because you're so new to this. You don't even know to ask these questions. Oh, will you be able to do the back end as well? And will you be? So I'm going to put a link into the show notes, everyone. When I had Igor Belogorodsky on, he has the PowerPoint presentation for the product dev experience so that you will ask all the right questions throughout the process. So I'll throw this into the show notes, everyone. So now you're experiencing the deep heartbreak of the code is gone. Oh my gosh, like we're going to have to start from scratch. What happened?
Yeah. So
after you cried,
I really couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So many things happened at that point. I hired a fractional, like someone to give me he's a fractional CTO, someone to give me advice.
Perfect.
I hired someone else to do a review we ended up getting the code back, but I didn't know how good it was. I had somebody review the code, an independent third party. Yep. We made the decision to scrap it and start all over again. And knowing I had to hire another developer, they would have wanted their own code anyway. So inevitably we started from scratch. Not the product journey, but the coding journey. Sure. That's okay. That's okay. But I did get expert advice on everything else from that moment on. I was not going to hire a single technical resource without like an army of advisors behind me. So did a search for a new technical partner and went a different route. We went with not a freelancer, but an agency. They are located in Lahore, Pakistan. But they're experienced developers. The president or CEO of that company lives in the Bay Area. And they have been our partners since 2018. They're fabulous. And the head of the company is now my CTO.
Oh my gosh.
It all worked out.
We have goosebumps. Yay.
But if I could rewind the clock, I would have done a lot of things differently. But at the same time, I would, you end up where you ought to be. I do feel like in large part. And I am endlessly grateful to my technical partners.
Right. So during this time period, you needed to seed and fund all of this activity. What were you doing for capital? Was it, credit card? Was it savings? Was it, on the street, crowdfunding, bank loans?
Yes.
How were you funding all of this?
Yeah. For the first year, and by the way, we're the slowest startup ever. So We've been
Wait, can I just say, said every founder ever?
you know, all these overnight success stories are all bleep, bleep, and do us no favors. But yes, we've been a very intentional, deliberate company. So for the first year, where it was really just exploration, and then we ended up building our prototype, it was self-funded by Greg and me, right? My co-founder and I put our own funds into it to get through the formation of the company, which comes with expenses, legal and otherwise, branding, legal, and the development of the prototype. So we self-funded, bootstrapped that initial phase. And then when we're like, okay, we do think we have something here, as flawed as our research was, we have something and we're going to hire a professional agency. I also had another realization. I had two realizations, which led me to our fundraise, which I'll describe.
Yeah.
One is that we're going to need more capital. And then the other is I have to stop moonlighting. If I'm going to really make a go of this, I'm going to forego my other revenue generating work.
Your side hustle and work.
Because it was just taking a toll on me, the constant context switching and working on nights and weekends. So I believed, and I think it was the right choice that I had to be all in. And Greg wasn't, and he couldn't be. So one of us had to be.
Yeah.
So I decided to, quit working, which meant foregoing an income at the same time that our expenses were about to increase. So I could no longer self-fund it because I had no income coming in.
Sure.
And okay. So in 2018, we did a friends and family raise.
Nice.
And it's literally friends and family. I think it's half and half. And the generosity of my friends and family continues to move me, to this day. And I will also say, going back to my other career, my early career, it served me well because I had a network of people, friends, and colleagues who believed in me as a leader, knew the depth of my integrity and intention, and just wanted to support me out of affection, for me. So, and for Greg. So we were able to do a very healthy friends and family fundraise that has funded us until today. I mean, up through this moment.
Congratulations. That is remarkable. I mean, you knew what you needed for a runway to make it happen. So that's just phenomenal. And I just want to bring up one of these wonderful pieces of collateral you shared with me, because we've been talking about the Daily Haloha, but what does it really mean? And I just want folks to just see what this slide shares. And could you walk us through this slide, Amy?
Yeah, sure. And maybe if you want, I can segue into our own revenue generation based on this slide.
Excellent.
Okay, so we launched a public app. So everybody can go to the App Store and experience it for themselves. It's free and available. There it is. It's free and available to everyone, everywhere. We're super global. It's this beautiful experience. It takes 2 minutes a day. It's uplifting. I don't want to sell it further. I just want you to try it. But the other slide is really about our intention in the world. And what we're trying to create is belonging. My most deeply held human value is that we all belong. We deserve to be seen, and we deserve to be heard, and we deserve to belong wherever we are. And our social wellness, which is another way to say belonging, is such a critical part of our overall wellness. It's right there on like Maslow's hierarchy.
Right.
Right. So the way our very brief community or very brief app experience works is it starts with you. We pose one question every day for everyone who's participating to reflect on together. So for you as an individual app user, it tees up a moment of mindfulness and self-discovery, like, what's true for me when I think about this question? And then you submit your answer and you have an anonymous exchange with someone else. You get someone else's back. You acknowledge each other through sending of and receiving of stickers so that everyone feels seen and heard. And then in that other slide, you saw the depiction of our Aloha wall, where everybody's responses fill up all day long.
Oh,
And this is a
nice.
chance to feel not alone. It's a chance to have your perspective broadened, to be uplifted, amused, to crowdsource wisdom from everyone, but most of all, to know that you're not alone.
So for our listeners, I just want to read to you something from, because right now we're looking at a slide of the app on the phone. And in the middle, the question that I guess folks are answering is that trust is a leap of faith, intuition, believing in hope and possibility instead of fear. And there's all these thoughts. Trust is scary from someone in New Orleans, Louisiana. Trust is a feeling like a warm breeze on a spring day, comforting light and making you feel calm from Germany. All these different comments. It's really, really remarkable. And I have the links in the show notes. It's dailyhaloha.com, right? Or IO.
It's .com.
.com. Okay, good. I just
Dailyhaloha.com.
dailyhaloha.com. Of course, if you're watching the video, you can see at the bottom of the screen the whole time. But for our listeners, how does one, is it both on Android and iOS?
Yes, it is. It's in the App Store and the Google Play Store. And, this experience we've built is for collective wellness, right? And empathy and collective wellness starts with us as individuals. So I love thinking about that beautiful membrane where the me and the we come together, right? Because it's only through self-awareness and discovery and compassion that we can really be available to others and to our communities. And it's when the communities embrace us back that it gives us that sense of wholeness and reinforces our value and worth. So I just love that I think of it as full cycle well-being, me and we and back to me. So we launched this beautiful app. We've tinkered with it for 2 years now. It's a ritual, it's a daily ritual. And it's pretty damn near perfect, I gotta say.
Excellent.
Since our failed attempt the first time at gathering feedback, we got better and better at it. And we've gotten so much feedback from people all over the world. They tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, how they feel.
How does this affect you? Like when you're like, how is this lighting you up and keeping you focused on your North Star while you get all this feedback?
The universe has my back because when I'm ever in these dark valleys of entrepreneurship, and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not worthy. This is ridiculous. There'll be a little app review or an email, someone telling me that their life's better. And it just gives me exactly the fuel I need to keep going. And it just seems like it shows up always at just the right times.
And the other founders have that experience. It's beautiful, right? It just all of a sudden, like when you're exactly in the, what I call the hashtag, why bother?
Totally. I could be out right now, right? Like I'm doing so many other things. So we do try to listen to customers through every means possible. And, I personally respond to every review, and we've got hundreds and hundreds. Nice. I respond to every inquiry, every email, every road leads to me. Not because there's not anyone else who can do it, but I'm so nourished by the feedback, the good, the bad, the harsh. It's all gold.
Well, and it helps you lead your business and continue implementing. So along the way, though, you need to get revenue for this. What is that looking like?
Yes. So that's where you don't have to show it if you don't want. That other slide comes up about full cycle belonging, because from the beginning, I knew that if we got this experience right for the individual participant and they loved using it and they felt connected to something bigger than themselves, that an opportunity would be to give our experience to members of a community to use privately so that they can feel those bonds of belonging in the communities that they live, work, study in, play in, with the people that matter most to them in their daily life. So our public app is so glorious in its diversity and globalness. And people say they love that, but they also need to feel belonging closer to home.
Sure.
So we just launched in September it was like birthing an elephant, a huge extension to our platform that now allows communities to have a private experience using our ritual with their members to build belonging amongst.
Oh, this is brilliant. Just a brilliant segue for you, and an addition for your offering, because this is how we grow as a team. This is how we get cohesiveness and how we get to celebrate our differences, is by having this empathy and connection and sense of belonging, but the questions that are going to help facilitate that. Yes?
Yeah. So as we hinted at along the way, that our daily ritual is sparked by one daily question.
Yeah.
And in my public app, it's fill in the blank, and you read off a few. This question, if you're seeing the screen, was trust is blank. So it really is an invitation to be curious, like, how would I define trust? How does trust show up in my life? What does it mean to me? Right? So in a community setting, those questions could be very attuned and relevant to that community. And I'm sure it hasn't escaped you, Ande, or many of your listeners, that it also generates a lot of data, right? As everybody responds to that one question together and transparently and inclusively, I might say, the host of that community gets access to all those beautiful responses, so they understand what's on the hearts and minds of their community members so that they can be in better service to their community.
Wow. And I just want to bring up, hey, Vashika, yes, this is really beautiful. Isn't it great to be focusing on something so uplifting and connecting? Yeah, this is one, and thank you for your comment, Vashika. This is, I think, one of the things that drives me nuts about the last 6 years is all the chicken little hand wringing and no solutions. I have such a deep appreciation that you said, I've recognized the problem. Let's move on to the solution here. It makes me so happy. And speaking of that, how are you acquiring customers? How are you bringing folks on to the platform? That's a unique challenge every founder has, but certainly an app founder.
I had no idea how hard it would be.
What was it like, herding cats?
It was like finding the cats and then herding them and then trying to get them to stay in the room with you. I mean, it's all of it, right? So it's funny. I'll just out myself and say, I was like, oh my gosh, what we created is so lovely and it makes people feel so good. Of course, everyone will want it. And I don't have to define my target market because everybody needs belonging, right? So I approached product market fit completely backwards. Here's how I approached it. Everybody's going to want this, right? Oh, okay, maybe not everybody all at once. Let me just get my friends and family to start using it and see how that goes and go from there. And then I'll tell you how we did get users, but it got to be a big enough group that I did a lot of research and I reverse engineered product market fit. I didn't have a persona we designed for, which is smart for startups. I had a group of people that found us, and then I tried to figure out who they were. So I did it completely backwards.
Okay, folks, here's the right way to do it. Okay, you first get really deep into what motivates the behaviors, the expectations. If anybody wants this customer persona exercise, you just email me, Ande at andelyons.com, and I will send it to you. It's so important. Thank you for bringing that up, Amy.
And I can do that. I can fill that out now, but not what I should have when we started. So customer acquisition, finding customers. We're an app, so we are at the mercy of those lovely app stores, and it is really hard because there's millions and millions of apps. It's very hard to become visible in the app store, but it's also essential.
Yeah.
So a couple things I can share. We started off just with organic to see what comes our way if we do the right kind of stuff in the app store. So if you're selling an app, if you're marketing an app or offering an app, you do ASO, right, which is the equivalent of SEO, but it's in the app store. It's app store optimization, and it has to do with developing a attractive magnetic storefront for your app in the app store, and also selecting keywords like you do in SEO to help you become visible in search. So we did put some effort around that, and that's essential if you
Okay, so that's a big learning moment right there. It's perfect. And I know, Abraham, you know what that's like. He has an app called Pitch Gauge. So let's just do a little yay, Abraham, with Pitch Gauge. So he had to figure all of that out as well for both platforms. Not easy. And I really want to say that in all the conversations, this is I think my 123rd conversation, nobody has mentioned AOS. So I want to thank you for bringing that up. That's so important. The App Store optimization. It makes perfect sense.
I think the statistic is something like 60% of apps are discovered in the store. So you really can't ignore it.
Right.
And if you're going to do one thing, you got to get that right.
Yeah.
So we also did a whole bunch of small user acquisition experiments. I experimented on social media, which, I didn't love because I'm very vocal about my concerns about social media. So I'm like, can I live in my integrity here? But I did a little bit of experimenting there. And I did.
What does experimenting look like?
It looks like developing some quick and dirty ad sets, putting a limited budget against it, identifying target markets, and doing some A/B testing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then I'm always doing thought leadership, content marketing stuff, but that doesn't bring in big numbers. And the other thing I did was some micro influencer marketing, and that was the winner for us.
For example,
I found some YouTubers that are talking about mindfulness and habits and productivity and journaling and kindness and the things where we live, and integrated our app into their content. And it worked really well, really well.
Bravo.
So we have little to no marketing budget to speak of, but I wanted to do these experiments so that I had the data to say, if and when we're ready to scale, and I needed to prove to an investor or someone else that if I had a budget, I would know how to spend it wisely, and I knew what our cost per acquisition was, I had that data. So we did do that work.
Nice. I love that. And to get back to the revenue question, you become profitable and sustainable when?
Okay. So from the outset, I knew we would have a consumer public app, and I envisioned that we would have this community version. Yeah. Let's call it B2B, but I'm such a nerd. I actually call it B2C squared, business to community, but just to myself and now to you and everyone else here. So I had ideas about monetizing our consumer app, but I really thought that the community version would be our revenue engine. In 2020, like with the pandemic, who could have anticipated when I started this that we would have a global pandemic that would necessitate social distancing, when people were going to feel more alone than ever, and that we would have such tragedies that happened also in 2020 that brought social inequities and injustice clearly to the forefront of everyone's minds. Yeah. So with all of that, I decided that our public consumer app should be a free public service. And I dropped any ambitions or attempts at monetizing that platform and decided to refocus all of that attention on our community model. So made that decision, set to work on our community product, did the right kind of customer discovery for that, did extensive customer discovery. And as I mentioned, we just launched that in September. We are in beta with our first set of community partners.
Right.
I got my first revenue check this week.
I'm clapping big time, everybody. Come on, ding, ding, ding. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Oh, that's terrific. Congratulations.
Yeah. So the hope is that for this coming year, once we'll get through, I want to have a few more betas, and then no one's going to find anything about us publicly about our community product yet, but we're going to go live and unveil it, and hopefully the rest will follow.
Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations. And Abraham is giving you a high five. Reverse engineer product market fit. Love it. Of course you do, Abraham. Everybody, you can hear Abraham's story on the Startup Life Live show. I'll put the link in the show notes because it's another great taking an app to market and everything that can go wrong and the challenges along the way. So, you've been on this journey now, as you said, it feels like the longest startup ever. And I always said every founder ever. And you were gracious enough to show that, nobody succeeds alone, right? You had others come in and help you open doors and provide mentorship and all of that. And you went through a lot of difficult times, as you were so transparent about and candid about. What helped you shift out of the why bother, what am I doing, I know nothing mindset, and into a more productive way of being to help you stay focused on your mission, this incredible, important mission?
Every day I have to talk to myself every day, and I do. I mean, it's damn hard, right? I guess I'll say two things. One is that I am deeply connected to our why, right? And you said before something so true, like founders fall in love with their product. And I guess that famous advice, I think it's Reid Hoffman, is, fall in love with the problem, don't fall in love with the solution. And that is so true for me. I care so deeply about belonging and disconnection and solving for disconnection and loneliness and divisiveness. Like, it feels like an honor and a privilege to work on that every day. And so it feels like an honor. And sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this. So staying connected to my why is the most important thing. But that's a little woo-woo. I'll tell you something that's a little more in the trenches, which is that I realized that I had my worst moments when I was comparing myself to others, right? Which is where social media to me has gone so wrong, right? Yeah. And there's that saying, which we all know, which I find to be so true, that comparison is the thief of joy, right?
100%.
Yes. And I said before, we're the slowest startup ever, but I shouldn't even say that, right? Everyone's on their journey. Everyone's on their path. The media likes to glorify certain kinds of people, certain kinds of startups. I don't fit any of those boxes. That's okay. I'm so fortunate in so many ways. And so stopping the comparison trap is really critical. And it's comparison in terms of people, startups, but a big one is numbers. So I had someone say something to me the other day that was so delightful and nourishing. And as founders, we compare ourselves because people always say, how many users do you have? What are your daily actives? How many subscribers? How many people visited your website? And you get so caught up in this, right? And it's this scorekeeping scarcity mentality. Of course, we need to make money. And yes, I'm never going to take my eye off the business ball. But, the comparison of metrics and scorekeeping is so corrosive. Someone said to me, I was talking about a webinar I was doing or something. I'm like, I don't know if anyone's going to show up. And she said, if two people show up and they're like, have an indelible imprint of your conversation, like, isn't that like a day well spent? And I was like, absolutely.
And then absolutely. The ripple effect of the impact. You cannot measure that.
Totally. And here's another fun one for anyone who has a tech platform and we get caught up in the metrics, right? So we are fortunate. We have thousands of people using the app, but I'm always lamenting how many people every day. Someone said, imagine that all the people that use it in any given day are in your living room. Because your product brought all those people together in your app in this collective experience. Imagine they're in your living room. Think about that. I was like, holy crap. I need a bigger living room. Like, that's a party I'm throwing every day. I'll take it. I love it.
That is so beautiful. And I'm going to do a quick stitch that on a pillow moment, everybody. Hang in there. Here we go. Stop the comparison trap, everybody. Some people have thousands of everything, right? And they're not making a dime and they're not helping anybody. You have to go through and bring in the folks that are best and right for your experience. But every time you look around and start comparing yourself, it is a disservice to you and your business. What are your thoughts, Amy?
100%. And no two journeys look the same. And also, no two journeys are right for anyone.
Right.
It might be absolutely right for someone to tinker in their garage for 10 years while they're getting a doctorate and raising 3 kids. And that's amazing too. So I think, yes, we have to stop falling into that trap. And again,
that's right, because you will never get out of bed if you do that.
Yeah.
Because you'll have the hashtag why bother moment. And instead, you are needed. And as we started the show off talking about Marianne Williamson's quote, being, who are you not to be a founder? And bring your fully expressed self to the world. Because we often ask, why me? No, that's a great answer. Abraham has a wonderful comment. You can save a lot of marketing dollars by optimizing App Store profile. Descriptions and screenshots, videos are all important in ASO. Thank you, Abraham, for that. And he's also thanking you, Amy, for pointing out, the comparison and all. That's terrific. And Vashika is saying, fall in love with the problem. That's right. It's so easy to fall in love with your solution, but it's really the problem that you're solving for folks out there and what information they give you back. Yes, Amy?
Yes. And I think the beauty of falling in love with the problem is you can keep pivoting. It doesn't matter. Right?
Yes. What hard thing are you working on right now as we wrap this up that we could add wind to your sails? What's your big ask?
We're not marketing the app right now, besides Abraham, our efforts in the App Store. So trying the app and spreading the word, if you enjoy it, is always huge for us. Word of mouth is our biggest channel besides the App Store. So if you are inclined, share the love, spread the word. It's free. It's 2 minutes a day. It'll make you feel good. And then our new community product, we're looking for beta partners. So if you yourself or someone you know is a community leader at work or at your church or in your community and have at least a couple, maybe 200 members and might want to try something with us and feel inclined to experiment, look me up.
Oh, that's great. I'll have all the links in the show notes, everybody. Amy, I loved this conversation, Something Fierce. Thank you so much for joining us in the Startup Life Live show. Not only sharing such incredible humanity of, talking about belonging and empathy and connectedness, but some great deep details on your launching, branding, and building this business of yours, this beautiful business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pop you in the green room and wrap this show up. Oh my gosh. We learned so much from Amy today, especially, the technical parts and everything that can go wrong. So I hope you're not feeling alone in your experiences, okay? Because this is the founder journey. We do not glorify it here. We bring the real stories of what happens along the way so you can be inspired and feel comradeship along the way, because you are not alone with all the suffering and daily rut-rows that you're experiencing. Let me share with you who's on the show on Friday, December 17th at 12 p.m. EST. We have Tan Ho. He's the co-founder and chief operating officer at Fiveable, a social learning company that seeks to democratize learning and empower high school students through education, content, community, and collaboration. Please join me to meet Tan and hear the stories that help this ed tech startup scale and prosper. They just had a really big seed round of multi-million dollars. So they have worked this out, and we're going to get all the scoop from Tan and his incredible startup stories. And how do you know when I post a new show? Well, of course, you join the meetup group, the Startup Life Live meetup group. That way you'll get an alert whenever I post a new show. Would love to see you there. Thank you for joining that. And thank you for carving out time today to tune in. Just want to remind you before I leave, a few little things here, which is promise me you'll remember that you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and as we say here in Boston, wicked smarter than you think. And that's the beauty of this best personal development program out there, Founderhood. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm grateful for your presence in my life, and I'm cheering you on from Boston and wishing you a delicious day. Mwah, everyone.